Hey everyone. This is my first time doing a YouTube live, so this is really interesting. We were supposed to start at 10, but it is 10:23 on the dot. So hopefully um technology will cooperate and this will go smoothly. Um this is definitely something that I wanted to do to kind of like test out the YouTube platform and get a feel for what it would look like to use this more often. Um, okay, so let me just get myself comfortable and like set up with everything, and then we'll start. I think everybody should be able to hear me. It looks like. Okay, cool. So I wish we had like some introductory music or something like that, but um yeah, anyway, so welcome you guys to the Crafted and Carved podcast. My name is Kenni Rae. For those of you guys who do not know me, I am the host of the Crafted and Carved podcast. We try to have episodes every single Monday. I release them on pretty much any platform that you can think of that does podcasts. So Apple, Spotify, um, Samsung, Android, everything you can think of, we have the Crafted and Carved podcast available for you guys to listen to. I have on the very first episode an introductory of what the podcast is, why I decided to do it, like what helped me to birth this idea. And so without trying to like go back and chase after what I said on that, I'm gonna tell you guys, please go listen to it. It's really beautiful, as well as the other 15 episodes that we have so far. I believe this is episode 16 that we're about to dive into tonight. And last week we also did a live episode on our podcast hosting platform called Podbean. And so I wanted to try out this YouTube platform and I'm really excited. I'm also like a little nervous because I'm looking at myself, which is weird because the whole idea, obviously, for me of feeling comfortable to share everything on a podcast is that I don't have to put myself out there. I don't have to show you guys, my setup, my situation, what I look like, well, obviously what I sound like. Okay, scratch that. But what I look like, and I kind of get to not necessarily hide, but just keep some privacy, keep some like integrity to like who is behind the voice, who is behind the idea. Plus, also like deep down, like nobody wants their idea to flop. Like nobody wants their situation to not go the way that they desire to go. And so if you're sitting here and you're like, oh my God, like here's me, I'm presenting me, and like people are not vibing with it, like you kind of feel some type of way. How and but ever I have been so committed to just like, okay, it is what it is. Like, I am here to be a light in any way, shape, form that I can, to even just one person. Like, I don't care if it is a multitude of people, whether we get nobody that joins this particular live or we get listeners that come in after the fact to listen to the playback. I don't care. This is it's absolutely for you guys, but it's also for me as well. Like I've shared with you guys previously, if you've ever listened to any of the episodes, that this has been such a safe space for me. This has been a space where I feel just confident. I feel, that I can discuss things that have been on my heart. I can discuss things that God puts into my spirit. I can discuss things that are going on in my everyday life, that are going on in just real time. And that is very therapeutic. It's extremely therapeutic to just be able to um, think through some of these topics, discuss things in a real way, in a natural way, in an organic way as they come up. So that is what the platform is for. Like it is absolutely for y'all, but it's also for me, and it's also for anybody else who feels like me, who needs that space for freedom, that space for free reign discussion, that space for growth. And that's kind of the nature of the podcast, is we're out here trying to just develop as individuals, grow and become the best versions of ourselves. Obviously, the method is through wellness. That's where the name comes from, Carved Wellness. We have a Bible verse that we attach to the Craft and Carve podcast, for why we call ourselves the Crafters. And I pray that you guys will get something from this episode today, episode 16. And if not, maybe some of the other episodes. Again, go check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Obviously, we have a YouTube channel where we upload all the podcast episodes as well. So there's something for everybody on every platform. So definitely look us up and get connected, get LinkedIn. The best way to stay up to date is to follow us on Instagram, though, because I do try to post regularly on there, and you will also find your updates for when we try to do these live episodes, and unfortunately if they get delayed. So you definitely want to make sure you're following us on IG at Carved Wellness, CarvedWellness. Reading and spelling is fundamental, you guys. Okay, so go follow us on the Instagram so you can stay connected and you can be a part of this incredible space that we have preserved for you all to just live your best lives and get the growth and the information that you need. So I hope that everybody listening today is going to really take away something. And if not, like and share this so that somebody else can find it and they can take something away from it. Okay, so we are on episode 16. If you guys don't know by now, we are on the relationship series. The disclaimer: every single episode of the relationship series is you have to do the work on you. Okay, babe? So the stuff we're going to be talking about today, this is not for you if you have not done the work. What is the work? The work is a lot. And in our foundational series, the first 11 episodes on the podcast, we really dive deep into some of the things that you probably need to work on. So if you have not gone and listened to those first 11 episodes in our foundational series, and you think you're about to sit up in here and get all this good information and become the most amazing person in the world for these relationships, baby, that's not about to happen, because you really have to do the work. So I encourage you to go listen to those first 11 episodes. It's going to get you right. It's going to get you ready. And then come back and join us so that you can dive into the relationship series. So, the deeper purpose of the relationship series that we're working on right now is building and developing the relationship cornerstones. What is a relationship cornerstone, right? A relationship cornerstone is this intersecting building block, right? Like if you think about a building, a cornerstone is that integral piece that holds the other walls together, that holds the other foundational pieces together. And so we're diving into kind of like a foundational portion of relationships, right? So we're working on that so that once we have developed these relationship cornerstones in a solid way, in a significant way, then we can really develop the relationships that we really want to have. And that's any relationship, you guys. I'm serious. Like friendships, romantic partnerships, family, all of that. Like you guys don't understand how a lot of these relationships and the things that we struggle with in them are all interconnected. And you'll see problems reoccurring and themes reoccurring in a lot of your other relationships if you don't have these relationship cornerstones locked into place. So, the title, obviously, if you are here with us on YouTube, is How to Love, cute Lil Wayne. We don't want to get a copyright strike. Sing it in your head. Yes, that was a pause so that you guys could hum it in your head. But yes, this is about how to love, but really the title is how to give love. It's how to give both love and empathy to the people that matter most to you and in the relationships that matter most to you, right? So the relationships, meaning friendships, family, um, romantic love, partners, things like that. And honestly, even work, okay? We talk about all relationship and business relationships. Like, I believe that these principles are honestly going to overlap so much so that you can pretty much apply them in your own way. Obviously, you're going to have to tweak certain things for certain people with certain dynamics, but it really does apply to every single relationship that you can think of, or at least that's how I view it. So, today we're talking about love and empathy, and we're going to break that down. I'm going to break that down for you guys. Um, in my own way. For most of you who have heard us before, you know I love a good article because I feel like a lot of times we have so many people who are sitting up here giving advice from experience. And I think experience is great. I have learned so much from my past. I have learned so much from my present. Some of the things that I have um, just tried to navigate in life on my own. But the reality is, I don't know everything. And I'm still trying to figure things out. I'm still trying to grow. I'm still trying to learn. I'm still trying to get better. So I sometimes need guidance. I sometimes need a little help. I sometimes need a little bit of just additional information and education. I feel like education sometimes will help you to unlock what you need in order to grow. It's not always the case. Experience is a great teacher as well. But if you can learn, if you can dive into like principles to just resources, psychology today is my like powerhouse, right? And then in addition to like actual scholarly articles, you guys know I love to reference the Bible. The Bible is the ultimate teacher for me as well. And so we're definitely going to dive into some of that a little bit later too. So um, it's really helpful for me when we have an anchor definition. I don't know if this is something that will happen for every episode going forward, but it's been really helpful for these cornerstone you know, episodes. It's been helpful to have an anchoring definition because I'm learning that a lot of people define things differently. And a lot of these definitions can be subjective, meaning that you can attach your own kind of understanding to it. So I just want to have an anchor definition, not because you're not allowed to have your own ideas, but because it kind of helps you to know what I'm talking about and why I'm talking about it the way that I'm talking about it, right? Because I'm learning that we just don't all see the same. We don't all come from the same background. And so the way that we think about things, the way that we kind of shape our viewpoints and our perspectives is based on how we understand and view the world, right? Like if I view love one way, but you view it another way, you might be like, why are we even having this conversation? Like, love is straightforward, it's simple, it's not that serious. Like, you either have it or you don't. But for me, I feel like it's something so much deeper. And so that's why I wanted to dive into it. And that's why I'm going to give you guys my anchor definition. So, um, we're going to just kind of go into what is love. And again, like this whole episode is not just what is love, it's on how to give it, because I promise you, because love is so broad, we could probably talk about it for hours. I started looking at articles, you guys, and it just went on and on and on. It's just like people are struggling so hard to figure out how to pin down this concept of love. And like, is it a noun? Is it a verb? Is it like we don't even really know till this day. But I'm just gonna give you what I think. And also some things that I found on in my research today. So basically, there's this really great article from Psychology Today. You guys already know what it is. Like Psychology Today has the best articles. And they did some cross cultural research, right? Just like with, different people, ethnic groups, backgrounds, men, women, whatever, social economic class, because we're all trying to figure out like what the heck is love? Like, what does it mean? And so they surveyed a ton of people throughout multiple different countries. And there was evidence from those surveys that essentially reinforces that there are these three key components of love that typically characterize romantic relationships. So the three components, right, are intimacy, passion, and commitment. Okay, so you guys are probably like, "Oh my god, that is absolutely, oh my, perfect. Thank you so much." And then some of you were like, "What the hell? That's not sufficient. That's not all that love is about." And so we're gonna get into this, right? But just to be clear that these are the three components that this research study determined that everybody believes, or the majority of people believe, are the three major themes that run concurrent across all cultures when discussing love and talking about love: intimacy, passion, and commitment. Okay, so just take that in for a sec. Like, think about that for yourself. What do those three words mean to you? Intimacy, passion, commitment. And when you hear those words, does that automatically translate into love? Even if it doesn't translate individually into love, like when you have all three of them combined, is that something that translates over into your understanding of love? So, okay, I want to just briefly go through this same article's definition of those three items. So, um, I believe they start off with defining intimacy. So it says intimacy refers to feelings of closeness and connection, warmth, caring, and sharing. Intimacy is not exclusive to romantic relationships, of course, but it is a key warm component. Okay, so intimacy refers to feelings of closeness, connection, warmth, caring, and sharing. Um, I wouldn't disagree with that. You might have a different definition of intimacy. Obviously, some people immediately attach intimacy to sex and, again, romantic relationships. Um, but you can have an intimate moment with anybody. You can share an intimate moment with your mother. You could share an intimate moment with your father. You could share an intimate moment with your pastor. You could share an intimate moment with your friend. Um, it just depends on what that looks like for you when you're having this close, connected, and warm moment. And yeah, I think that that is a beautiful way to characterize it. It's mainly a feeling. Intimacy is. It's not really like this specific thing. It's not sex. It's not. It doesn't have to be snuggling. Um, it could be a variety of things, or it could be one thing. It really just depends on what that means for you. But it's definitely, in my opinion, intimacy is not um, exclusive to one thing. Like, it literally is a feeling that is related to all of these different things: closeness, connection, warmth. So I would agree with that. It's now saying the understanding of passion, and it says passion refers to intense feelings of attraction, and like a magnetic force, it feels very strongly like being drawn to someone emotionally and physically. So, oh, it says passion is the hot component. So, right. So you feel like this heat, right? And again, it's not always going to be a sexy heat. It's just like I wouldn't say it's a hot component. It's more like the fervency. Like, there's like a fire, like when you're around that person. Like, you remember being a kid and like running to your mom when you saw her to come pick you up from school. There's just like fire in your eyes. They're like, "Oh my god, my mom is here." The excitement, right? So that is um definitely, I would agree with that too. It says intense feelings of attraction and like a magnetic force. It feels very strongly like being drawn to someone emotionally and physically. Um, and I would also just I think that I think even though this is true, this is one form of passion, I think that it is a little narrow. Um, because you can be passionate about something without being physically or well, I guess you would want to be emotionally drawn to it, but you don't have to be physically drawn to it. You don't have to be physically attracted to it. But there does need to be some sort of emotion, because it's going to be that super strong feelings of emotion, because um again, I like to kind of characterize it as the excitement factor of the relationship or the dynamic or the common interest, right? So, okay, passion. And lastly, commitment says commitment is more cerebral than intimacy and passion and is considered the cold component. Okay, but it refers to the deliberate decision to invest in a relationship over the long term. Totally love that definition, particularly the last part where it talks about the deliberate decision to invest in a relationship over the long term. We talk a lot about intentionality and that being a component of when you decide, like, hey, I want to do XYZ thing because these are my goals. Like, if you have a goal, you have to be intentional about putting certain steps, actions, vision into place in order to achieve that goal. Um, and so intentionality, being deliberate, all of those things very important. Absolutely, I believe that when love is involved, when commitment is involved, there has to be deliberate decisions, deliberate actions, intentional decisions, and intentional actions. I don't like that they consider it the cold component, because I feel like that's not true. Like, commitment is very sexy, okay? Like, commitment is very sexy. Commitment is something that I feel absolutely you have to have in order to consider something love, or to consider the situation loving. But at the end of the day, like, it's not this horrible, awful aspect. Like, it's a very beautiful aspect. But anyway, okay. I rest my case. So, yeah, just when you guys are thinking about this stuff, go through the three different themes that the Psychology Today article laid out, and just begin to think about what those three things mean to you. They are kind of broad, even though we just laid out some definitions here and they gave us some things to think about. So, that's helpful, but you guys are potentially going to have your own ideas, your own thoughts, and just your own narratives that kind of help you to understand, what is passion for you, what is intimacy for you, and what is commitment for you. So just take some time to think about what those mean for you, because that's going to be really important. And then another thing that I do want to kind of make sure that I lean into with this whole definition is the reality that, I mean, yes, these three themes are absolutely, in my opinion, a requisite for love to exist. If these things are not there, there's more than likely no love. Like, you can't call it love. You can call it something else, but you can't call it love. And we'll get to that later. Um, but I definitely believe that these three themes have to exist, and I'm glad that they, um, were able to find that cross culturally over, the course of surveying 25 different countries. How and whatever. I am American, so I don't know, you know, if this has something to do with it. I was raised in the South. I don't know if that has something to do with it. But let me tell you, baby, that is not all that love requires. Okay. And so you might be thinking the same thing too. And you might have said none of those things are on the list. Like, what are you talking about? Like, none of those things are what we think of when we are thinking about love. So if that's you, just, I feel you, I hear you, I understand. Some of the things that I thought about for myself that came up key elements that I believe are missing when we're talking about love, when we're trying to define love. I believe there needs to be a mutual trust between whoever's involved in the loving relationship. There needs to be a mutual trust. There also needs to be a mutual respect. And now this one is hard because respect looks different for different people. I might think hey, I need you to respect me, so don't raise your voice at me, right? But you're like, I am respecting you because I'm giving you a chance to have this conversation with me to begin with, which is absolutely ridiculous to me. But that might be how you feel and how you view respect. So respect does get tricky. But when I say mutual respect, I do mean a mutual understanding of what respect means and then agreeing to give that to one another. Um, I believe when there's love involved, you have to have shared goals. um it doesn't have to mean that you have the exact same shared goals, but you at least have some shared goals. You have some common interests and things that are um that you have. I guess this is another way to rephrase a shared goal, but you just have something that's kind of tying you together, and maybe even a bond, right? Like a bond. You guys have formed a bond, you're creating a bond, you're working towards a bond, something kind of external, not necessarily a thing, but something external that's binding you together. Um, I don't know, like maybe just the fact that you um both want to be married, right? The fact that you both want to share your lives together, the fact that you both want somebody to call up and cry to, the fact that you both are trying to negotiate a business deal. And I know you guys are probably like, okay, girl, now you're going too far because why do we need love for a business deal? But just hang tight. So, yeah, I absolutely believe that there are some missing things, at least on my end, and maybe even from this list of additional things that I just named. So, if that's the case for you, go ahead and write down your list as well of things that you believe that need to be added to the list of what love is, like what is required for love to exist. And in addition to passion, intimacy, and commitment. So I really am excited because I feel like this episode, I get to spend a lot more time in the Bible than I usually do. Um, and some of you are like, oh, honey, no, thank you. Um, I'm just typing something in the chat right here. But yeah, no, I I'm excited to talk about the Bible today because I feel like the Bible is um a great resource on the concept or the topic of love. I mean, some people, preachers and individuals have said that the Bible is literally all about love. That's all it's about, is it's a love story. So I figured that that is what um, I would turn to today because I want to give you guys a real breakdown. So we've got this Psychology Today article, but I feel like that helps us to have a definition, that helps us to kind of create or begin to create our definition for ourselves. But I want to go even deeper, and I want to really give you guys my blueprint for what I understand love to be. And, the fact that I realize that it does come from the Bible. I mean, it comes from God. It comes from, I was raised on these principles, and this is why I view it the way that I do. So many of you might be familiar with this verse. It is 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. And then I'm also going to read verse 13. So 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 8, and then skipping ahead to verse 13. I'm just going to read the whole passage. This is the New Living Translation version for anybody who is new. That's the only version I read out of for purposes of this podcast. So just in case you got a different version, you're like, girl, what are you reading? This is what we're reading. The New Living Translation. Okay. Um, so it says, verse 4, love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. Prophecy and speaking in unknown languages and special knowledge will become useless, but love will last forever. Three things will last forever: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. So I could just mic drop and walk away right now. I honestly feel like this is one of the most beautiful verses in the Bible. Um, I mean, and the reason why I'm going to skip ahead is because um, we later learn in other verses and other chapters of the Bible that God is love, and so even though these verses are talking about love is patient, love is kind, it's actually was taught to me that you replace the word love with God. So God is patient, God is kind, God is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude, and just the reality that God is love, um, which is extremely beautiful and helpful, right? Because in order for us to understand love, we really have to understand God and who God is and how his love for us is shown through the different things that are displayed throughout the text of the Bible. And um, and that's just something that I've come to learn over the years, is that I can't actually understand love and how to love without understanding who God is, because God is love. So that's something, Christian or non-Christian, if that's something that you are interested in exploring, like please send me a DM on our IG at Carved Wellness. I'll be glad to introduce you to the love of Jesus Christ and the Bible and everything that comes with it: salvation, healing, all these amazing things. I would love to be able to share that gospel with you. So please feel free to reach out either in the comments of any of these platforms or through our DMs. That's the quickest way that you can get in contact with me, and I would be more than happy to talk with you about it. So, um, and again, if you're not saved or you're not a Christian, I do understand that this portion probably feels a little like, what? But just kind of roll with it for a bit, because again, these principles are real. Like, these principles are very real, that the verse is talking about. It's talking about how love is patient, right? So we're over here searching for a definition of love, and here we have First Corinthians 13, which pretty much tells us what love is. Love is patience, love is kind, love is not jealous, love is not boastful, love is not proud, love is not rude. Love does not demand its own way. Love is not irritable. Love keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but it does rejoice whenever the truth wins. Love never gives up. No, love never loses faith. It's always hopeful and endures through every circumstance. And that's the first part of the verse, and then it goes on to talk about how love never fails, and that um, it lasts forever. So it's a really beautiful thing, right, to think about when we're thinking about love in different contexts. Um, and I want to, dive into this a little bit more, right? The Bible's understanding of love, because I did do some additional research to understand that this verse is specifically talking about agape love, right? This passage. And in reality, there are four different types of love which are described in the Bible and characterized in the Bible. So this verse, because it's referencing God and God is love and God's love is an agape love, then this is not going to be a type of love that you can give to every single person, but it actually is the type of love you should be striving to give to every single person. So I digress, right? Because at the end of the day, we get to navigate this the way that we choose to. We have autonomy, we have choice, we have free will. But the reality is, you are supposed to be striving to give this First Corinthians 13 love to every single person. So when you were rolling your eyes earlier and you were like, well, what you talking about love during a business deal? Well, as a Christian, as a person who is supposed to be striving to live a life that is pleasing to Christ and a life that is dedicated to the kingdom of God, you actually are supposed to love that person on the other side of the negotiation table. You actually are supposed to love that person who checks out your groceries at the cash register in the Aldi's. Like, you are supposed to be extending this kind of agape love to as many people as you possibly can. Now you have a choice, okay? But that is supposed to be your goal. All right. So I hope that you receive that. I hope you understand and you will use First Corinthians 13 as your blueprint for love and how you will strive to show it to others. And again, I have to just insert this right here because even though I said at the beginning of the video, look, this is the type of stuff that we're doing after we've done the work on ourselves. Okay? Because some of you guys will run with this and believe, like I did, that that means you just let people run over you. And that's not the case. The Bible does not promote you letting people just walk all over you and run all over you. You have to use wisdom. You have to use godly wisdom and godly discernment. The Bible does promote godly wisdom and the use of discernment. So you do have to be careful and you cannot just, and a part of this agape love also is setting boundaries. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Go ahead and do that foundational work on yourself first as an individual, and then go ahead and see how you can start to navigate relationships with other people and navigate things that will help you to have these healthy interactions with people that you want to be in relationship with. So I just wanted to give you guys the 4 different types of love that are in the Bible. Because like I said, we do have a basic command to love, but it doesn't, we don't, we're not, we're not commanding, we're not sinning if we're not giving agape love to every single person, because it's a very almost impossible love. I believe it's actually impossible love to achieve, but you might be sinning if you're not trying to give agape love, right? So just keep that in mind. But the other types of love, you've got philia, which is brotherly love. So that would be to a friend or someone who you are not a romantic partner with, or someone who you are not married to, or wait, a romantic partner with, or someone who you're not family with. I think that's what. Okay, anyway. So philia, brotherly love. Then you have eros, which is romantic love. And again, these are all Greek. All of these words are Greek. So eros, which is romantic love, that is with, someone of the opposite sex, or someone of your choosing, that you have decided to engage in a romantic love type of relationship. And obviously, usually that involves sexual intimacy, things like that. Potentially getting married, girlfriend, boyfriend, 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 girlfriend, girlfriend. And then you have storge, storge, which is familial love. And this is the type of love or connection that is developed between individuals who share the same bloodline or who have tied themselves together as family, kinfolk, as we say down south. So, um, philia, eros, and storge, and then agape, which is determined to be the perfect unconditional love. It is the same love that the Father gives to us every single day, God the Father, every single day. It is a selfless, sacrificial, unconditional love. It is the highest of the 4 types of love in the Bible. It is unmotivated in the sense that it is not contingent on any value or worth in the object of love. It is spontaneous and heedless, for it does not determine beforehand whether love will be effective or appropriate in any particular case. You literally, here you go. Here is my agape love. I'm not paying attention to whether you deserve it or not. Here it is. Like, and that's why I said this is not something that everybody just like, you don't just go out giving agape love left and right. Like, it has to be like, agape love has to be taught, right? It has to be taught. What does it look like to give agape love, to have boundaries, but to still love unconditionally, to use discernment, but to still love unconditionally? That is not an easy thing to understand how to do because of what we understand love to be. Um, and yes, so I just urge you, pray, ask God for direction, ask God for discernment, and to help you to understand how to navigate agape love, because it is a very special kind of love. It is absolutely a love that I believe should be in existence between a life partner, not any romantic partner, but if you decide to get married, I do personally and strongly believe that agape love is the type of love that should exist between both people who are in the relationship. I don't believe that agape love will always exist between everyone else that you encounter. You're lucky if you can explore that type of love with friends and family. But if that's not the case, that is okay. You do your best and you pray. And again, you ask God for discernment. Ask God to help you to love them to the best of your ability. But when it comes to life partners, marriage, or anybody you decide to attach yourself to for a lifelong whatever, I believe that that agape love needs to be there. So I just wanted to get highlight a couple of stories that you guys may or may not be familiar with. Really quick from the Bible, it is the friendship between Jonathan and David. And the reason why I'm highlighting these is because, again, romantic love is something that we hear about a lot, and so we feel like we know what that looks like, or at least we have an idea of what we think it should look like for us. But the reality is there are so many different types of relationships which love should exist. And one great example is the relationship between Jonathan and David. If you know anything about that story, you'll know that there was a really intense love between these two individuals who were friends. And it is written out in First Samuel. I'm not sure the chapter, but it's in First Samuel. And David is essentially running from King Saul, who is Jonathan's father. And Jonathan loves David so much that he literally goes to the ends of the earth to help protect David and to keep him safe, despite his father wanting to kill him and do all these evil things to David. And Jonathan supported him. He was his kind of just right hand man of sorts in just really protecting him and keeping him safe and making sure that he was able to anticipate the strategies of his father, King Saul. So um, that's a really beautiful godly friendship. And there are some other examples of friendship, like the one between Naomi and Ruth, and that's also somewhat familial as well. So if you read the book of Ruth, you'll see that relationship between Naomi and her mother-in-law, which is another beautiful example of love that exists, but not in the romantic sense that you should potentially look at and reference as well. And then lastly, the relationship between Joseph and Potiphar, which I don't know if there are any translations that actually use the word love about the relationship between the two of them. But if you know anything about the story of Joseph when he was in Potiphar's home, he was essentially Potiphar's slave. But because God blessed him and God was with Joseph, Joseph was successful in everything that he did. And because of that, Potiphar began to entrust him with literally everything, with responsibility and really just a lot of support and graciousness over Joseph's work in the home. And so even though it is possible that we can't really say that it amounted to love, is um a great characterization of a really beautiful relationship between employee, employer, if you will. So I believe that is in Genesis. I'm not sure what chapter, but you can look up the Joseph and Potiphar story to understand a wonderful dynamic between employee and employer. So, um, okay, well, that's it in terms of the Bible. And I hope that that blessed somebody. I know it blessed me. It blessed me to research, and it definitely blessed me to talk about it and just to kind of have that reflection on what the Bible truly has available to us in understanding love. Because I feel like we're always just so like frustrated, right? With why is love so hard? But really, it's not. It really isn't that hard. And it really starts with us. It starts with you. It starts with me, and that's why this episode is not about how to receive love. It's about how to give it. And yeah, so from there, you know, on you go. But the reality is it really does start with us. And the more that we work on ourselves and how we can show varying levels of love and not be so guarded and closed off and um emotionally unavailable, then we will start to draw in the people who can reciprocate that for us. Or at least that's my belief. So I wanted to talk to you guys because this episode is also about empathy. It's not a lot about empathy, and I don't want to spend too much time on empathy. Um, but the reason why I even want to share anything on empathy with you guys is because, yes, there are some scenarios in which empathy may not be appropriate. Excuse me, not empathy, where love may not be appropriate or love may not be possible, right? Especially to the full extent in which we've been talking about. And so I want to just break down empathy just very quickly because I feel like when we're guarded and when we are shut down and when we put up walls, we are not only shutting love out, but we're obviously shutting love in. So we're not giving it out and we're not letting it in. And so I feel like, even with that being the case, you know, the Bible talks about discernment, guarding your heart, guarding your mind, guarding your soul. Being guarded is not a terrible concept. It's not something that is evil and bad, but it does require a little bit of intentionality. That's literally like the theme for this entire podcast is intentionality. Like, just don't go through this life blindly doing whatever and spewing whatever. And one of the things that I feel like is missing in today's generation, it's in 2023, is empathy. It's like we don't have it anymore. We don't have it for other people in the way that we should. We're not trying to understand people the way that we should. We're not trying to hear their stories. We're not trying to connect with them through their stories and through their world and what they are experiencing. And you may say, well, that's because they don't deserve it. But everybody has something um, to learn from, and it doesn't mean that you hear their story and then you decide to be best friends with them and do something for them, but just, we talked either last episode or the episode before last about understanding and the importance of understanding. And we just need to bring back more of that to the current space, to the current world that we live in. So that's why I wanted to talk to you guys really quickly about empathy, because I feel like when we feel like we're so hardened and we can't love, I feel like empathy is still an important tool that we can use to um, just try to connect more and have these human experiences and interactions with the people in our lives, even if you haven't gotten to that place where they're super important to you yet. So, what is empathy? So, there are three different types of empathy. There is affective empathy, there is somatic empathy, and there is cognitive empathy. So, affective empathy is the ability to respond to other people's emotions appropriately, right? And the reason why I love that it's breaking it down like this, because if you just do a very basic Google schmoogle search of empathy, it will tell you something along the lines of empathy means that you feel what the other person feels. And it's like, okay, yes, but that is only one type of empathy. And in fact, that is somatic empathy. Somatic empathy is the ability to feel what another person is feeling. And that is often what we attach to the word empath. If we call someone an empath, we are usually calling them that because they define themselves or describe themselves or understand themselves to be a person who is able to literally feel what another person is feeling. And that's beautiful. That is literally wonderful. I am not that person. Like, that is not me at all. I like you crying. That sucks. I sometimes wish I could cry, but it's like my eyes literally like they don't like nothing comes out. Like nothing ever comes out. So it kind of sucks. But that is somatic empathy. And then you have cognitive empathy, which is the ability to understand someone's response to a situation. And I love this, right? Because sometimes the way that people react, I'm sitting here looking at y'all like, what the, you know what I'm saying? But I also understand. Even though, oh, excuse me, even though in my professional capacity, I probably wouldn't react like they did, I understand why they reacted like that, right? I understand why they responded to the situation the way that they did. So that's a cognitive empathy. And I want to just focus really briefly on the first one and the last one because the ability to feel what another person is feeling is wonderful, but that is a special kind of thing that I think happens almost neurologically and physiological that can't really be taught, right? If you feel it, you feel it. If you don't, you don't. But effective empathy and cognitive empathy, from what I understand, these are things that can be taught. These are things that all it does is take some adjusting to your mind frame. All it does is take some adjusting to the way that you see your interactions with others and the way that you address others when they open up and when they express something or when they do something or when they react to something. And it again, it doesn't mean that you take them in and you just love all on them and no. It's coming from a place of understanding. It's coming from a place of wanting to connect. It's coming from a place of wanting to consider their situation and understanding that their situation is different from yours. And so you are um you have the ability, right, effective empathy to respond to other people's emotions appropriately. Have you ever been around somebody or seen someone and they start crying and then you're just like, okay. And it doesn't mean that you're wrong for not, going over and hugging them and giving them a tissue. It's not, because everybody's going to be different. Everybody may not want that. But in my opinion, when you are making attempts to respond to someone else's emotions appropriately, one of the best things you can do, especially if you don't know the person really well, is to ask, what do you need right now? What do you need? Would you like a tissue? Would you like a hug? What do you need right now? And sometimes what do you need right now is a little too harsh and intense, and especially if you say it with the wrong tone. But again, it's about not just knowing the right thing to do all the time, but just taking that time to actually care and try something or ask if something is okay and showing that you care about the emotions that they're expressing. Um, and it's not always sad, right? It could be somebody jumping up and down for joy because they got a promotion. And you're sitting there like, yay. Because you want to get promoted and you didn't get promoted. But it's like, no, them being excited about their promotion has nothing to do with you still wanting to get promoted. Like their promotion is an isolated event that you can be excited about and you can be happy about and you can jump up and down. So with this responding appropriately to people's emotions, that takes some intentionality. It takes understanding yourself, maybe working through some feelings and initial reactions, and understanding some of the ways that you react to some of the things that people say and do, some things that make you uncomfortable, some things that make you envious, jealous, whatever. Just knowing yourself well enough to know, hey, I might need to tweak this thing so that I can show up for people and be there and care for their emotions and the things that they're going through. And honestly, I could repeat the exact same thing for cognitive empathy. But instead of feeling like you need to do something, you don't actually have to do anything at all, because it's about the ability to understand someone's response to a situation. So even if they did something messed up or horrible, you're like, you know what? I get it. I get it. You were going through a lot last week. I get it. It's not okay, but you were drunk. So I understand. All right. I'm going to put up some boundaries because I don't like that you were drunk and that you had the ability to do that and say that, but I get it. You know what I'm saying? So everything does not have to be cut and dry, cookie cutter, like F you did this to me, you did that to them. It doesn't have to be like that. You can understand and still put boundaries in place. You can understand, be loving or be compassionate and still put boundaries in place. Okay? So those are the things that I just wanted to share with you guys on empathy. And I feel like empathy is absolutely a byproduct of love. Like, if you are going to choose to love someone, whether that be philia, eros, storge, or agape love, you are going to need to have empathy. And you're going to need to potentially have all three, but at least that first and last one. The cognitive empathy and the affective empathy. You're going to need to at least have those, because that's a really important factor in being able to show up for the people in your lives. However, yes, it is a byproduct of love, but it also is something that you can show even before you get to the space where you feel like you love someone or want to love someone. So just keep that in mind. And I wanted to talk to you guys really quickly about what it means to give love when they don't love you back. And I wanted to do this first before I really jump into how to give love. So we covered exactly what some ways that we can define love, like what love is. We talked about empathy briefly. We talked about the Bible's understanding of love, but I want to talk to you guys about how to give love, like specifically how to give it. Like, you know what it is now, you understand what it means to you, but I really want you guys to be open to giving it away. However, before we do that, like I said, what do you do when they don't love you back? That's hard. But the reality is that's going to be up to you. Okay. Certain relationships, however, do not require a mutually loving relationship. Okay. You either choose to love this person or not. Okay. So you either choose to love someone or not. Sometimes your love for this person may be conditional upon their ability to love you back. And if that is the case, once you have identified that that love is not there, sayonara, okay? And that is fine. That's okay. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to do that for your sanity. Sometimes you have to do that for your mental health. And baby, just do it, okay? Just do it, okay? Check, check, Nike. Um, but the reason why I wanted to share with you guys about empathy is because sometimes empathy is really all you need. Sometimes, if this is not going to be a relationship that is mutually loving and you've determined that this person doesn't have the ability or the capacity to love you back, sometimes you just have to be sure to try or aim to give empathy. Sometimes you just have to make that attempt to give empathy. And I think that's I think that's always going to be commendable. I think that's always going to be a beautiful thing to do. And it is absolutely it's contingent upon who the person is. and where you're at with yourself. And again, if this person can't live, like for example, your father may never love you. Like he may say he loves you, but your father may never be able to actually love you in terms of your definition and understanding of love. And if that's the case, you have to make a choice as to whether you're going to love your parent, father, sister, brother, cousin back, even though they don't really love you. Now, you may determine based on what you decide and your understanding of storage love, familial love is, whatever that understanding is for you, you may determine that they do love you, but they don't have agape love for you. And if that's the case, then okay, cool. They love you, but now you may not be able to give them agape love. Maybe all you can give them is storage love, familial love. And so you kind of have to just understand that. That's why I said it's contingent upon where you're at with yourself, what you're willing to give to the person, who the person is, what you're willing to give. Um, but then again, sometimes empathy is all you can give. It's like, I understand. I understand why you don't have the ability to love me right now. I understand that you would love to, but you just, it's not. You went through this thing and you're hardened and you're going through this thing now and you're hardened or you're busy and you're not in it. And I understand. And that's sometimes all you got, okay? Sometimes that's all you got. And let me tell you, that's much better than 90% of the world right now, based on what I've been seeing out here and on social media. People are just devoid of love these days, devoid of empathy, and it's sad. So um anyway, but like I was saying earlier, and I still believe, like I would argue that when it comes to friendships, when it comes to romantic relationships, I believe that these relationships require a mutual love, or at least the desire to build that, or else you probably should move on, right? Like, again, we're talking about people loving you back. I think in a family dynamic, and again, in a business deal, you don't need them to love you back, right? Like you don't need them to love you back in order to give love, in order to give a brotherly love, in order to give a storage love, a familial love. But the reality is, if this is a friendship, and sometimes it may not happen that way for friends either. Like you may determine that, okay, my friend doesn't need to love me. I'm still going to go to brunch with them and call them friend. And that's okay too. But you know, you have to have an understanding for that, right? Because sometimes you'll be like, oh, this is my friend that I go out with to brunch, and then be shocked when they don't have your back when you're about to get evicted. And it's like, no, baby, that was never that. That was literally just the brunch friend. Like that wasn't the friend that had real love for you. Even if you guys are exchanging I love yous, because I honestly, especially from the South, I love you rolls off the tongue like butter, okay? And that's wonderful, but it really just means nothing. Um especially when the other elements are not there. So it's important for you to understand that. It's important for you to see that in the people that you're associating with, and understand whether or not this is a relationship that you are going to actually invest your own love in. And I do believe, like I said, if this is going to be a friendship where you are going to love on this, I believe that it has to be mutual. I believe it has to be mutual for friends, and I believe it has to be mutual for romantic partners, or there has to be that mutual desire to build that and to grow into that. And you will notice that from efforts. So you will be making the efforts to build it, and they will be making the efforts to build it. They will be asking to take you to brunch, and you will be asking to take them to brunch. He will be asking you for a date, and you will be can't wait to hit him up on the phone and call him and talk to him and stay on the phone all night. Like that has to be mutual. Um yeah, so anyway, I think it's ultimately up to you, But just be careful. These are the things that, resonate with me. These are the things that I desire to express in my relationships with the people who I'm in association with. But the reality is, it may not be that deep for you, or it may be that deep for you, but you're just scared, or you're like, I don't want to change. So just think about these things, and, don't be afraid to get out a journal and write some stuff down, and really just sit down with yourself and kind of make a decision about what you want it to look like. Um, okay. So, like I said, this whole episode is about how to give love. And so, last but not least, now that we have an understanding of all the different types of love, you guys are assessing for yourselves which ones are going to work for which people. And now it's time to give it away, right? And it's funny because if love is something that you can give, then it kind of is presumed to be a noun, right? This tangible thing, or maybe like a basket of things, a basket of respect, of trust, of passion, of intimacy, um of commitment. But it's also a verb because we say I love you. So it's literally like a verb, and it can be a little confusing, which is why I went to the outset to kind of define this in the beginning. And so I just want you guys to harken back to the definitions that we discussed in the beginning, as well as some of the concepts from the Bible, because that is what I'm talking about here when I'm talking about how to give love. I am not talking about the feelings. Okay, LMA is gonna kill me. Copyright strike. I am not talking about the feeling of love, how to have the feels and give those feels to someone else. I'm literally talking about all of those things that we just covered, including the scriptures: patience, kind, it does not boast, it does not give up easily. That is what I'm talking about. And so, um, it may look different for you, what is in your basket of love. And I honestly feel like sometimes it should. I think that it can still be love. I think there are some non-negotiables for what love has to have, in order to be called love. But the reality is, you get to decide what that looks like, right? So I cannot stress enough that you're going to have to sit down and understand for yourself, like, what it is I'm willing to give to this person, this person, this person, and this person. And their basket may look different from their basket, right? So, um, I believe that it's literally a fully customizable product, or a fully customizable package that you can tailor and curate for each individual you come across, and each individual in your life that you love and care for. And it really has to be viewed that way, because everybody is just not deserving of the same package. Okay. They're just not. They're just not. And that's where the discernment comes in. You've got to use it. You have to use it. You have to be careful, and you have to carefully curate and tailor each package for each individual. And then some people can upgrade and get the double XL and the 2.0 and the 3.0 and a whatever. Like, get fun with it. I encourage you to journal it, but be intentional about it. Do not be sloppy with this. Love is serious. Love is so serious. Because we've been so hurt, guys, we try to make it like love isn't serious, and love, it's love, whatever. No, it's so serious. It's one of the greatest things that you could ever give to someone, especially when it's coming from you. It's also one of the greatest gifts that you can receive. It's beautiful. It is so beautiful. And again, we're not just talking about romantic love. So just know that when you are trying to navigate these relationships, it is important to sit down and journal. It is important to sit down and think and reflect and be intentional about how you're going to go about it. So do that for yourself. Try to come up with a way that you customize it, either by the individual, or you can even do categories like, my friends, I'm going to focus on giving them this kind of love. But even with that, like, maybe there's one friend who you need to put some boundaries with, but the others are good to go. Like, just take your time, be deliberate, be intentional, um, and don't try to rush through it, because the love that you have on the inside of you is very valuable, it's very precious. So yeah, in order to give this love, in order to give these gifts, you absolutely have to have an idea of the person on the other side who you're giving it to. So I don't even want you guys to entertain the idea of love until you feel confident about who the people are that you are sharing space with. So if this is a good friend you've known for 30 years, that's different from somebody that you met at the coffee shop 2 weeks ago, right? And same goes for business deals, and same thing goes for um, romantic relationships. Like, if this is a man that you known for 4 years, like it's time for you to decide that it's time to take the walls down, baby girl. Like, let him in, if he's a good man. If not, then why are you still here? Um, but if you guys just met on date one, then you shouldn't even be thinking about the word love. And I'm talking to myself. Like, I'm glad this camera is on because I'm looking at myself. If you just met this man last week, you should not even be thinking about the word love. You should not be even almost thinking about the word love. You should not be thinking about wedding bells. And I know we be hearing them after date one. We be hearing the wedding bells. We be looking up the wedding dresses, the wedding ring, everything. But the reality is, you should not be even thinking about that. But once you start to get into, a few more interactions, and you start to feel like you are getting to know this person, then you can begin to customize. Okay, so I'm going to give this person my trust. I'm going to give this person my respect. I'm also going to add to the basket some intimacy, some closeness. I'm going to add this, and this, and patience, and whatever. Um, and I just feel like that is a great way to go about it. And that is why I'm going to keep talking about journaling, because that is a great way for you to keep up and understand where your head is at with this type of thing, where your head is at with the people that you're meeting and getting to know. How do you know what you know about them if you're not even keeping track? Like, y'all be, y'all can miss me with that whole, we don't like to journal. Like, y'all better get out a book or a pen and paper, or write some voice notes or something. Um, so anyway, like I said, you determine what goes on the inside of each package. You determine what goes on the inside of each basket. Just make sure you're intentional about including it in each person's love package, whatever you have designed for that specific person or that specific category of people. Again, there are probably some staples that have to be in there in order for you to call it love, but it's still fully customizable. Um, yeah, I just really believe that that's it, right? For in terms of how to give love, it's very simple. I don't have a long laundry list, baby. I don't. Um, I said go do that foundational series and get yourself right first, and then understand love second, right, which we talked about, and then understand the people you're trying to give the love to, and then customize it. And that's it. That's literally it. And then you just have to give it away. I believe that doing it this way is going to help you to stop overextending yourself for people who don't deserve it, and it's going to help you to stop being so guarded and stonewalled and just locked up, and oh, I'm scared, for the people who actually truly love you and adore you and do deserve it. So, look, I'm talking to you like a sister, I'm talking to you like a friend for a reason. But it's all stuff that we have to navigate. I myself am still trying to navigate this. Um, and when in doubt, my loves, choose empathy. When in doubt, choose empathy. Empathy costs you nothing. It costs you nothing. I cannot stress that enough. It costs you nothing to extend empathy across the table to someone who you do not initially or immediately understand their world. Try, try, try. Okay. So, to sum it all up, you guys, love is always going to be what you make it. And you have to decide, obviously, what it is that you want, what it is that you're willing to give, what it is that you want to see come out of the interaction, the dynamic, the relationship. what it is that is going to make this relationship special for you. Does this relationship even require love? Okay. And then, of course, we broke down those various forms of love in the Bible. And we highlighted agape love, and you have to be willing to give agape love. You have to. Doesn't mean you are going to do it, but you have to be willing to. You have to be open to. You have to be in a space where you um, are even capable of giving a unconditional love, and at least trying to give that unconditional love. Um, and remember, boundaries are such an important aspect of loving both yourself and even the person on the other side. You have to put those in place, right? Because sometimes they need them more than you do. You're worried about, oh, how are they going to feel when I put these boundaries in place? But you really need to put them there for the both of you. Um, so use boundaries, use discernment, and when in doubt, use empathy. It's a tool we often forget, but definitely use that empathy. Lean into God's love, lean into God's love story, study his ways, learn how he loves you, learn how he loved the church, learn about the sacrificial love of him sending his son Jesus to save us from sin and death. And the picture will become clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer for you, my friend, because that is what it did for me. So I hope that this blessed you. I really do. This has been fun. I like YouTube. I'm going to try to get more professional with it because this setup, I'm not gonna know until everything's all said and done, but this setup wasn't terrible. Um, but I definitely want to, get a little bit more, maybe not high tech is the word, but just I want to get some more technology in here. I want to get some more setup that actually makes sense for everything and everyone. But until then, you guys, we're going to be back on all of our podcast platforms for the remainder of the episodes with the relationship cornerstones. I'm still working on trying to get us some featured guests and things like that. But yes, in the meantime, go check out all the past episodes. You can find them here on YouTube, on the Crafted and Carved podcast YouTube channel, as well as, like I said, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all the other podcast platforms where podcasts is available. Google Podcasts. Just Google us, you will find us. I promise you. And you can stay tuned in. This episode will be uploaded tomorrow, so Wednesday, which again is late, but that's how it be like that sometimes. You got to chop it and screw it and make it cute. So, yes, like, share, and subscribe. Please, guys, like, share, and subscribe. I love you so much for listening. I really, really do. Don't forget to follow us on IG at Carved Wellness, where you can send me DMs and stay up to date on all our upcoming episodes. All right, guys. Well, I'm signing off for this episode. I can't wait to see you back next time for episode 17. All right. Bye.